Furiosa, one half of the biggest movie-going weekend since Barbenheimer is here, along with the Garfield movie. Garfiosa? Furiosa? And whatever. A prequel to the ultra-successful Mad Max Fury Road, following a young Furiosa on her quest of survival and revenge against the God of Thunder. I had a chance to see it, and yeah, it rocks. It's always a dangerous idea to go, hey, you know that movie that's deemed one of the greatest action movies of all time? Yeah, let's do a prequel to that. It takes balls. Apparently balls that director George Miller has. He said he's been kicking around this idea in his head for years, and now that he's finally been able to do it, it's here, and it has a really hard job. Not only because this film will either fairly or unfairly be compared to Mad Max Fury Road, but it also has to establish a reason to justify its existence. Should you go out and do more of the same of what Mad Max Fury Road did? Or do you go in a different direction that might be good or could turn off the fans who are here to see what Mad Max Fury Road did? And somehow George Miller managed to do a balancing act scene only at circuses. Because I feel confident in saying that this movie gives you some of that same rush and adrenaline that Mad Max Fury Road did, while also being distinctly different. Let's start with the action. Listen, I'd be lying if I said that this reached some of the same highs that Mad Max Fury Road did, and I understand it's almost unfair to throw that expectation out there, but you know, it is what it is. Fury Road was like the hairs on your arm standing up as if you have spidey sense, and especially as the score kicked in, you just felt like you were really on a drug. And as I said, I don't think an action scene in Furiosa can rival anything in Mad Max Fury Road. I just don't think so. But the one thing that this movie does have that is different from Fury Road is the amount of action. And what I mean by that is Fury Road was one big, long chase scene, right? And even though I love action movies, someone like my partner or a lot of people I know who aren't fully into this genre, there is a thing, and I've said this so many times in so many videos, but there is such a thing as too much action. It is just a thing. Even if the action is awesome, if there's too much of it, they just become numb to it and therefore get bored by it. It's a thing. It's even happened to me sometimes. But Furiosa actually doesn't have that problem. And I was actually pretty surprised at the patience, for lack of a better word, of Furiosa. Because I think this movie knew when to slow down and spread the story and tell it, let him breathe. And it also knew when to ramp it up and okay, let's go time now. And because of that, the action did feel very important, which can be an equally great feeling as well. But also, let me not downplay it here, okay? It's not like the action is like, oh, that's cool. Like there is still some of the adrenaline boost that you need for your day. Not that you can spoil an action scene because you really can't in this movie, but okay, this is no spoilers, but there are a scene with some action that involves parachutes. And when that happened, I damn near stood up and started cheering. And plus, you can see where the practical stunt work is on display here, which is just awesome. And I'll touch on the VFX in a little bit. And this feels almost routine to say, but the crafts in this movie are just awesome. The camera feels purposeful in its movements or lack thereof. The cuts all flow together. The sound is top notch. And how can you not love the costumes? The costumes are so cool and it just adds to the world building of it all. And when you have these crazy costumes, it demands crazy names to go with these characters. And George Miller did not skimp out on those. We got characters named Scrotus and Rectus, okay? George Miller, I don't know if you're trolling or if you're being serious, but either way, I'm in, okay? Because those characters were honestly really funny, okay? I really like Scrotus. I like Scrotus. Now, Anya Taylor-Joy is great in the role, and considering the character doesn't speak a whole lot, you do need A, some physicality with the actor that you're choosing, but also B, them eyes need to be able to speak for themselves, and obviously Anya Taylor-Joy is where you go with that. I mean, especially when the makeup is like black, like it's covering her forehead down to her eyes, that when her eyes are open, I felt like that scene in Oppenheimer where it's like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. But really the physicality of her performance is what surprised me. And not in a sense that I didn't think she can do it. I think she can do anything. She can do me. What? But in terms of her presence felt really large in this movie. Larger than I could have expected. I haven't listened to enough interviews to see whether Anya Taylor-Joy kind of went back and watched Fury Road, saw Charlize Theron's performance and had that guide her own performance, or if George Miller just really directed the shit out of it, or both. But I can really see the connection between her performance to Charlize Theron's performance, years later. Now, do you all remember the viral question on Twitter of who is the best Chris in Hollywood? And everyone tends to pile on Chris Pratt, and from what I remember, a lot of people went with either Chris Pines or Chris Evans. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? There's no wrong answer here, except there is a wrong answer because I always felt so alone privately saying to myself, I think Chris Hemsworth is actually the best Chris. And I just have to say, Furiosa is my victory lap here because he is incredible. He's just unhinged. He's insane in this movie. He's really funny and he is clearly dialing it up, but in a way that never loses you. Because yes, he can feel like a loony villain, but in the world that George Miller built that surrounded him, it doesn't feel out of place at all. And he really is a lightning bolt of energy, no Thor pun intended. I mean, he just brings something to that character. Probably my favorite performance of his. I'll have to think about that. I don't want to show a recency bias, but it might be. Now, I do have some gripes with this one, and I'll be quick, but listen, as I said, some of the practical stunt work is just amazing in here, but because you see some of the practicality of it when it is CGI heavy, especially in the action scenes, it's hard not to notice. And I know that was a big talking point when the trailers came out, and I was very, very pro on this trailer, okay? I really didn't care about that at all. And I've seen a lot of people say that they didn't find it distracting because they were so immersed in the movie, and that might be you. But I'd be lying to you if I said that it didn't take me out of the movie, because at times there were moments where it's just like, what am I supposed to do? It was very apparent at times, and it took me out a little bit, and then I'd go right back in, and then I'm on the ride again. And also, this is a revenge story centered around a character who doesn't speak very much and is very stoic, which is to say that story-wise, it's nothing amazing. I'm very curious to see this again, just to see if I can kind of pull out some more complexities that maybe I just wasn't looking for or expected on first watch. But to me, this did feel like a rather normal revenge story that we've seen before. And for a lot of people, that's like more than enough, right? And I totally get that. And I understand that revenge stories are usually surrounded around a character who's very dark and stoic and reserved, because that's where revenge comes from, someplace dark inside of you. But is it okay for me to say that I wish the story hooked me a little more, right? That's all I'm saying. It establishes the Furiosa and mother connection in the beginning of the movie, and that's good. You want to try to grip the audience with some sort of emotional connection from the beginning. I guess it just kind of bounced off me because I really didn't feel that. Maybe that's how the beginning of the movie plays, or maybe I'm just a robot with no feelings. But that's it. But listen, I think movie-going audiences want this kind of movie right now, especially in a summer season so far that has been pretty disappointing, to say the least. And even with those qualms, this is one of the better movies of the year, and no doubt one of the most exciting. Long live Dementis, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, 4 stars. A Mad Cat saga? Furiosa, a Mad Cat saga. I think that's the one.